and we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, what a week of college football we just had this past weekend. A lot of games that we had, a couple of ranked matchups between ranked teams, and we even had a monster upset that happened Friday night. We talked about going into that slate last week on the show. This is one of the best slates that we had at college football in recent memory, and it really showed out this past weekend with the games that we had on Saturday, that game on Friday as well, and a lot to talk about here on the show because it led to a big shakeup in the top 25 polls with all these results, and now we go into a nice, decent slate upcoming here for week number 6 already of this college football season.
Yeah, absolutely electric on Saturday, and we had many upsets and a big shakeup in the top 10. So let's just go straight into it.
Well, I talked about this game. It wasn't on our rundown for the Mushing Hour last week, but I mentioned that this was a game to watch out for because it had upset potential. And that was the game that happened on Friday night between number 8 Florida State and the Virginia Cavaliers. And Florida State out of the get-go did not start off great in this game. They were down 7-0 going into the second quarter. They had finally gotten some rhythm offensively in the second quarter. It was tied 21-21 going into halftime. Both teams would trade touchdowns in the third quarter. Tie game going into the fourth. Virginia was leading the entire way in that fourth quarter by a touchdown, but on fourth down late in the game, Florida State was able to tie the game at that point and send the game into overtime at 35-35. Florida State and Virginia would both trade field goals in the first overtime. Virginia then, and to start the second overtime, got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to take an 8-point lead. The Seminoles had a chance to tie the game or get a touchdown at least and be a 2-point conversion away from tying the game, but they were not able to get the job done. Virginia pulls off a major upset here in this season. They knock off the 8th-ranked Seminoles 46-38 in double overtime. And Johnson, for me, Florida State now, if you look at the rest of their schedule, this next game they have upcoming this week is probably all or nothing for them this season if they really want to make it to the college football playoff. A major win for Virginia. We'll talk about them in a little bit as well in the AP poll because I couldn't tell you the last time this team was ranked entirely in football. We know what they've done in basketball in recent years, but football, I couldn't tell you the last time they were ranked.
Yeah, and they joined a long list of teams that would have a better football than basketball team or vice versa because they were always known for their basketball prowess, and now it's finally showing on the football field. And this was a monumental win for Virginia, especially in the NIL era. It's really hard to gain momentum organically like this and to beat such a historic program and a team that was almost destined for the postseason to be fighting for that top ACC spot in the wintertime here. They took them down. So it's a great win for Virginia, and I don't think they should get ranked above it. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit, but yeah, great win, and I don't know where we go from here.
Well, I looked it up quickly before we move on to it. The last time that they were ranked in the top 25 was 2019. It was week 15, so at the end of the season, they were ranked 22 in the country. We'll talk about where they are in the rankings in a little bit as well. But yeah, I'm not sure where you go from here because if you're Florida State now, as I mentioned it, you pretty much have to win next week. You have to beat Miami in order to make the college football playoff or even just make the ACC championship because dropping 0-2 in conference play really puts you at a pretty much long odds to make the championship game alone. And if you look at the schedule as well, Johnson, I mentioned earlier on, games like Clemson and Florida at the beginning of the year were games that could help you in your resume. Right now, those games aren't helping you. They realistically don't have a game at the end of the season that's going to help their resume. The only thing that's helping their resume right now is a team that we'll talk about in a little bit, Alabama. But yeah, it's a really tough loss for Florida State. They really just did not play that great to start this game. It really put them at a disadvantage. And you got to give credit to the Cavaliers because guys like Chandler Morris, the starting quarterback, despite throwing 3 interceptions, had a monster first half of this game to put Virginia in the spot to keep competing with the Seminoles team. And they got the job done at the end of the day and pull off a stunning upset to go down to 4-1 in the season.
Yeah, and I think we can talk. Speaking of stunning, let's talk about that big whiteout game.
Oh,
Oregon
man.
hanging on in double OT to take down Penn State. James Franklin once again not winning the big game. What do you do from here? if
Well,
you're
let's
Penn
face
State, what do you
facts.
actually do from here? Because this is a game that they were not heavy favorites to win, but they
They're a
were
3.5 point favorite.
favorites by more than a field goal to win this game, and it's your premier game of the year. This is a big recruiting weekend. You got a lot of alumni back on campus, and you're facing one of the top teams in the country, and you fall flat once again.
I mean, the first three quarters was all Oregon. Penn State could not move the ball. They got one field goal at the end of the first half. Oregon, to their credit, also wasn't really moving the ball in the first half, but they started out so strong in that second half. They were up. They got a touchdown in the third quarter to go up 10-3. Another touchdown to put them up 17-3 in the fourth quarter with about 11 minutes left. I thought that was it right there because Penn State had no signs of life on offense. But then the Nittany Lions finally showed something. They got two touchdowns. One immediately after Oregon scored their touchdown to make it 17-10. They would then score the game tying touchdown late in the fourth quarter to send the game into overtime, as you mentioned. Both teams would trade touchdowns to start the overtime period. The Ducks then, in the second overtime period, got the touchdown. They did not get the 2-point conversion, so Penn State had a chance to win the game in double OT. But first play of their drive in the second overtime, Drew Aller throws an interception that was the game winner for the Ducks. And yeah, I really don't know where you go from here because it's just another scenario of Penn State not being able to win these big games. Credit to them for at least fighting back. They really, in years past would have games like this where they would just kind of fall flat and would just stay like that the rest of the game. They at least showed some fight towards the end. But if they had not fell flat throughout the first three quarters of this game, they probably win this game because the Ducks were giving them a lot of opportunities in this one to win the game at the end of the day. And now for Penn State, here's the problem for them too. You're now faced with the fact that you're now 3-1. You've lost a conference game 2 now in the season. And you still have to go to Ohio State. You still have to play Indiana. And you still have some tough road games at places like Iowa and Michigan State that are probably not going to be easy for you at the end of the day. So I don't know where you go from here right now if you're the Nittany Lions. If you're a 2-loss team, you probably make it into the college football playoff. If this team loses 3 games, I don't see a scenario how they make it. I really
Absolutely
don't know
not.
if they
No,
can.
you're right. Yeah, and I really don't. No, continue.
Go on. Yeah, I was gonna
No, go
say
ahead.
if you're Oregon, I think you have to be ecstatic with what's happened because I'll admit because going into the year I was a little bit worried about their quarterback situation after what happened. Losing their starter from last season and having to go now to Dante Moore. And Dante Moore is no slouch. He was a 4 and 5 star quarterback. He's been waiting in the wings to finally become the Oregon starting quarterback and take over the reins of he had to go over because it certainly wasn't an easy factor. And he balled out in this game, 29-39 for 248 and 3 passing touchdowns. Did not make any mistakes in this game whatsoever. And the Ducks, they've got to feel really good right now, being 5-0. They're now the number 2 team in the country. And you look at the rest of their schedule, one big game left, and that's against Indiana. They looked in prime position to make the CFP with no problem. And they probably make the Big Ten championship game as well for the second straight year.
Yeah, prime position doesn't even put it lightly. Vista Vera are going to be cruising now for the rest of the year. And if you're an Oregon fan, you feel great because you can lose that game to Indiana, take care of business, lose the game to Indiana, hell, even lose the Big Ten championship.
And they still be fun. Yeah,
so
it'd still be fun.
With their schedule, you should expect college football. Again, nothing is we play the games on grass and turf, not on paper. So those paper matchups sometimes aren't 100% legit, quote unquote. But yeah, they still have to take care of business, and but if they take care of business like they should, you can start celebrating.
And speaking about a team taking care of business, Johnson, how about the Alabama Crimson Tide? After what we saw at the beginning of the season, that downright terrible outing against Florida State, everyone, including myself, I'm willing to admit it, wrote them off, saying that's probably it. They showed no fight in this game. They got absolutely masterclassed and outclassed in every single aspect of this game against Florida State. And going on the road to Athens, not an easy matchup for this team. But the biggest thing for Alabama the last couple of years, even without Nick Saban, they beat them last year too, and at Tuscaloosa, is that Kirby Smart continues to have problems against this Alabama team. And I'm not sure what exactly the issue was for this game too, because out of the gate, Bama jumped out quickly in this one. An early 7-0 lead. They go into halftime up 10 points. Georgia got a touchdown in the third quarter to make it a field goal game. But then the offense for Georgia just pretty much died down from there, and they really couldn't get anything going. They had chances in the fourth quarter. They even had a chance to kick the game tying field goal, Johnson, in the fourth, and they decided to go for it on a 4th and 1. They did not get the conversion, and they had a chance to tie it, and instead they lose the game by 3 points. Bama gets a much needed win, 24-21. They're now back into the college football playoff conversation, while Georgia now has to figure out exactly why they can't beat Alabama, because it continues to be the boogeyman right now. They cannot get the job done against this Crimson Tide team.
Yeah, that's the storyline right now, and it snaps a 32 game winning streak at home that the
Right.
Bulldogs had. The last time they had won or lost at home, it was pre-COVID. The last time they lost was October of 2019, which was against South Carolina in overtime as a 2017 victory for the Gamecocks. And Georgia, it looks like they've taken a step back, but they still are in position to make the playoffs, so they can relax just a tiny bit. I'm not saying like okay, like everything's fine, but you lost to Alabama. It's not like you lost to I'm trying to
You
give you a
lo-
team right now.
you lost to a respectable SEC opponent that's
You
been
lost a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs. So
yeah,
let's
and
pump the brakes on the
and that's the question I
overreactions.
was just about to ask you with this Bama team. That they win this game, they're now 3-1. If you look at the remaining schedule, big game upcoming this weekend against Vanderbilt, which never thought I'd say that. The next week they play at Missouri, who is currently ranked right now. Then they play Tennessee, of course, that big game. That game is in Tuscaloosa. They still have to play LSU. They still have to play Oklahoma, and they still have to go on the road to South Carolina and Auburn. So it is not an easy schedule whatsoever for the Tide. Are you convinced that this team finally got something going and they're going to make the CFP, or do you think because of how bad the schedule is for them that they might falter at some point this season and they might miss the playoff?
I think I need to see him. I need to see him have a look against Vanderbilt this weekend.
And it's a team that beat them last year, so
Yeah, so
that's
this is the team.
understandable.
This is they got punched in the mouth last year. I know the spread is -10. If they beat him by 3 touchdowns, then yeah, they're back. But let's see how they play against Vanderbilt before I actually pull the trigger on this.
And I have one more question, and this will tie into our next game. Who right now is the best team in the SEC in your opinion? Like
By
if you,
default,
if
I
you had
think it's
if
Texas
you
A&M. I think by
right,
default it's A&M.
I would say it's right now because Georgia, I thought for sure was the best team after the Tennessee game. Like they didn't play
Yeah,
great defensively, but their offense looked so good in that game. And I thought that was the reason they were going to win this game against Alabama. And their offense resorted to what I saw last year, which is a big reason why they couldn't get the job done against Notre Dame in the college football playoff. So it might be Texas A&M. They had a little bit of a scare against Auburn this past week too, but it also might be Ole Miss because let's talk about their game against LSU. They looked
yeah. Let's go
really
ahead.
good in this game against the Tigers this past weekend. The score does say they beat them by 5 points, Johnson. I really thought this was, in my opinion, Ole Miss from the opening kickoff. LSU had the lead at the end of one, sure. Ole Miss dominated the second quarter. They went into halftime up 17-7. LSU, they did their best to fight their way back in this game, but you have to give credit to Lane Kiffin and company because they're on a backup quarterback right now in Trinidad Chambliss, who has taken over Austin Simmons, and he's done a phenomenal job since taking over as a starting quarterback for this Rebels team. The Rebels defense was really strong in this game, and I'm a little bit concerned right now with Garrett Nussmeier because some of the stuff we're talking about with him right now is some of the exact similar stuff that we talked about with Arch Manning at the beginning of the season, and wondering, is Garrett Nussmeier hurt? Because he does not look like the same quarterback we saw last season for this LSU team. Ole Miss goes on to win 24-19 in this game. They are now 5-0 on the season, and Johnson, 3 of those 5 wins are all conference wins. That is a monster good step in the direction for Ole Miss to try to put them into the SEC championship game. And looking at the remaining schedule for this team, the biggest 2 games they have left right now are obviously big road games. They're at Georgia and then they're at Oklahoma. So those aren't going to be easy. But Ole Miss right now, they look like they're in a good prime position to make the college football playoff after missing it last year and maybe even make the SEC championship game along the way.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I really don't have much to add there, Nick. So,
What about I'll quickly actually before we go to the eight people. What do you go from here if you're LSU?
LSU, just play the games one at a time. You lost on the road. It's the SEC. It's a tough environment. Yada yada yada. There's your rah
Are
rah
you
nonsense. And
are you
don't pull
worried
the
about their schedule coming up?
yeah. Don't worry about it yet.
Okay.
I know it's gonna be very tough, but you take the games one at a time. If they get caught looking ahead, they're gonna falter. So they gotta take the games one at a time.
I thought that's what happened at Florida State. They looked ahead to Miami because they had this game. It was a game against Virginia that they were supposed to win, and I think they looked ahead to that game against Miami this upcoming weekend, and that's probably a reason why that they're in the spot where they have to win. So, all that being said, let's now talk about the AP Top 25. We talked about how big of a change up there is now in the polls this week. We mentioned it last week, and I kind of summarized it that there was guaranteed to be a new number two team in the country. It was not because Miami was doing something bad. It was just because they were on a bye week, and you had a game between Oregon and Penn State, where the winner was going to be guaranteed to be number two. And with the Ducks winning, they are now the new number two team in the country. They move up from 6 to 2. Miami is now the number three team in the country. Ole Miss jumping up 9 spots in the polls. They go from 13 to 4. Oklahoma goes into the top 5 at number 5. Texas A&M goes to number 6. Penn State stays in the top 10. They are now number 7. Indiana moves up to number 8, so they are now in the top 10. Texas stays in the top 10 at number 9. And Alabama moves up 7 spots. They round out the top 10 at number 10. And then you have teams like Texas Tech, 1 spot out of that at number 11. Georgia falls to 12. LSU falls to 13. We saw Florida State drop from 8 to 18 after their loss. Vanderbilt moved up 2 spots. And we have 2 new teams in the top 25 polls as well. I talked about them earlier. Virginia and Arizona State is back into the top 25 at number 25. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna make this pretty brief, and I know they shouldn't have. They should have dropped out after losing to Tennessee if they were theoretically in it. But Mississippi State should have been ranked this week, or ranked going into this week. They beat number 25 Arizona State a couple weeks ago. They had
Great
a
show
couple
against
wins
Tennessee, too.
and had a great showing against Tennessee. So I don't know why they're not getting a little bit more love in the AP poll. I know you can't really rank a team after being unranked after
Yeah.
losing, but that's the one kind of fall.
I thought if any team should have been over Arizona, maybe Utah.
Yeah.
They beat up at West Virginia this week after that bad show against Texas Tech.
But yeah, I mean that's my only real gripe.
yeah.
That Notre Dame is still ranked, but that's
Don't get me wrong,
circles
Arizona
already,
State,
so.
great come from behind win against TCU. I understand the ranking for that perspective, but I understand what you're saying too. That if you lose to Mississippi State, you probably shouldn't be ranked over that team because you lost to them.
Yep, that's my main gripe. But anyways, here we are.
There we are. And I think that's a perfect way to summarize it. And let's go to the mushing hour, Johnson. I think that's the perfect way to do it. We have 7 games on the docket this week. A couple of bad beats for us in football in general this week.
I had a great week.
You had a very good week, 6-2 for you. You've been cooking so far with your college football picks this season. You're 23-11 on the year, and I'm still trying to find my right setting. I started the week off 4-0, and then I proceeded to lose my last 4 picks, including a double pick, which technically counted as my 5th pick. So I went from 4-0 to 4-5. So it goes to show you how it goes to show you how my luck's been so far.
Yep.
So let's see if I can get it done this week, and we'll start off in the Big 12. Sneaky trap game for the Cyclones, Johnson. They are on the road, number 14 in the country, taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Bearcats in this game, a 1.5-point favorite, over under 52.5 for that game.
Iowa State plus 1.5. This is very disrespectful to them. I think they'll cover this. That's crazy to me.
I think
Cincinnati's not that good.
I think it's just because they haven't looked as dominant. I think if Iowa State.
Yeah, I get it, but Cincinnati's not that good. So, let's pump the brakes here.
Yeah, I'm not so certain if I'm buying Cincinnati love right now. The Big 12, I guess any team realistically, as we mentioned earlier on the season, is capable of winning this conference. I'm with you as well. I'm going to go with the Iowa State points as well, 1.5. If you're going to give me a ranked team on the road against an unranked team, as a plus favor, as a plus spread, I'm going to probably take them 10 times out of 10. So I will take the Cyclones in that game. I thought about taking the over for that game. I'm probably going to do a double pick at some point in this spread. So we'll see if I circle back to it as my double pick for the week. But for now, I'll go with Iowa State plus 1.5. What's our next game?
We got number 9 Texas, the Longhorns, going into the swamp to take on Florida. Texas, a 6.5-point favorite on the road, over under slate at 43.5. Arch Manning, big game in the swamp. He's going to get the victory, but he's not going to cover. Give me Florida plus 6.5. Arch, this is your big. This is your time to step up in a big time environment against a team that's okay, I guess, on paper. A lot better
Florida
than
is just a
it's
disappointment.
okay on
Probably the
paper.
biggest disappointment this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Other
mean
than
they're
Other than
disappointed, but they're just
Clemson.
like they're an okay team. Like it's not like
Yeah.
oh my god, Florida's so bad. Like Clemson's bad. Like Florida's not Clemson bad.
Yeah. Ah. This game has been tricky for me to pick, and I don't like this pick, but I'm gonna go with the Texas cover in this game, minus 6.5. Florida is just I was really I really liked what they did last season. I thought they were gonna carry it over a little bit into this year, and it's just been a complete mess. I think honestly, Johnson, for their sake, they probably should be okay with losing some of these games because they gotta get Billy Napier out of there. He's just gone from a guy that should have gotten this program back to relevance to a guy that needs to be out of there as soon as possible so that someone else can get in there and fix whatever the hell is going on. So I'll go with Texas to cover the 6.5 in this game against the Gators. In our next matchup, we have an ACC matchup, which if you had told me this would be on our docket, Johnson, I would have called you crazy. But number 24, Virginia at Louisville. I promise this is not a ACC basketball game that we're previewing for this matchup. The Cardinals are a 7.5 point favorite. 62.5 is the over/under for this game.
Yeah, give me Virginia plus 7.5 on the road here. I don't think Louisville will win by more than a touchdown. Kind of simple recipe I've done this season is taking the uh, underdog. If it's in a ranked team on the road and they're getting plus points, I take it. So I'm gonna stick with that formula.
Yeah, it's been a working formula because it's been really working for me all season. So I might as well follow suit. I will go with Virginia plus the 7.5. I do think though Louisville wins this game outright, but 7.5 is a lot of points for a ranked team going on the road. I don't care if it's Virginia or any team in the country. You gotta show them some respect. So I'll get the
So
Cavaliers to 7.5.
So speaking of the opposite of ranked teams on the road getting a lot of points, let's go in the opposite direction. Texas Tech is an 11.5 point favorite on the road. They are number 11 in the country going cross state to the Houston Cougars. Texas Tech minus 11.5 and 50.5 is the over under. Give me Tech minus 11.5 because uh, Houston has not figured out the sport of football yet in the Big 12. They're still kind of adapting and getting used to it. So you can get
Surprising,
Cougars tickets for like 30, $40. So
yeah. Surprisingly 4-0 Houston is right now in the Big 12, but here's the problem, Johnson. Before this week started, I liked Houston to cover in this game, but then I forgot about what happened to them on Friday against Oregon State. They almost lost that game against a team that, let's face fact, the Beavers are not good right now. They've been playing some really bad football, and they needed overtime to get the job done. Texas Tech just beat up on Utah a couple weeks ago
at Utah or is it
at
home?
Utah.
Yeah, it was at
That was
Utah.
at Utah. So I'm going to go with Texas Tech as well in this game. I'm not sold on Houston just yet either. They're in the right direction. Connor Wegman's doing as much as he can for that program, but Texas Tech is this is a reason why I picked them as a one of my college football playoff teams. I think they just brought in so much talent from the portal, and you're seeing it work out right now because they're right now the last team out before the top 10. They are playing some really good football. I got to ride with them in this game, so give me Tech minus the 11.5 on the road at Houston. Our next game, we have Mississippi State at number 6, Texas A&M. A&M, a 14.5 point favorite, over under 57.5.
Too many points for me. Mississippi State plus 14.5. I
Yeah.
said I think they're a better team than advertised. They've kept close with a lot of good teams, and I don't think this will be any different. As much as I love the Aggies, this is the smart pick here.
Yeah, they struggled with Auburn last Saturday, almost lost that game. Thankfully, they were able to hold on. And Mississippi State went toe to toe with Tennessee, who was a very good football team. So I'm with you on that one too. A lot of mushing so far, so we'll see if these teams are able to overcome it. I got the Bulldogs as well in this game, plus the 14.5 on the road at Kyle Field. What's our next game?
The Prove It game, ranked SEC football, number 16 Vanderbilt. Yes, you heard that right. Number 16 Vanderbilt. The Commodores
Crazy.
on the road against number 10 Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Alabama is a 10.5 point favorite at home. The over under slate at 57.5. Until Alabama proves me wrong, give me Vandy plus 10.5.
It's going to be our first disagreement other than the Florida Texas game. I'm going to actually go with Bama minus the 10.5, and I think this will be my double pick of the week. I'm going to go with the over too. I love both of these offenses. Vanderbilt's defense, though, has been very worrying, Johnson, these last couple weeks. which is why I'm concerned for them in this game. They had a great show against South Carolina, but that was after the Lenora Sellers got injured in that game. They gave up 35 points to Utah State this past Saturday. Bama's defense finally showed up in a big game against Georgia. I'm expecting Diego Pavia and company to put up points like they did last season, but I still think Bama not only covers the game, I think they win this game by 2 touchdowns and the over hits as well. So I'm going to go with that as my double. Bama minus 10.5 and the over in that SEC matchup. And then finally, let's round this off with a big-time rivalry in the ACC. In my opinion, a must-win for the Seminoles. It's number 3 Miami at number 18 Florida State. Miami is a 4.5-point favorite, 54.5 the over-under.
Give me plus 4.5 Florida State here. They're at home. It's a big game. They need this. They're going to recover. I don't think they'll win, but it'll be a close enough game where FSU covers and Miami gets the win. So give me FSU plus 4.5. Crosstown matchup here. Tallahassee to Miami. Not really crosstown, cross state, but you know what I mean.
These two teams hate each other, though. That's for certain. No matter what their records are at the end of the day, they hate each other so much. I'm going to stick with you on that one, too. I think Miami wins this game by a field goal. But if you're going to give me Florida State at home plus 4.5, I'm going to take them in that game to at least put up a fight. As I mentioned, they have to win this game, or at least put up a fight in this game. A fight won't give you a chance to make the college football playoff, but if you win this game, you're right back into the picture. If you lose this game, it's going to take a miracle. You would have to go undefeated the rest of the way in conference play. You would need a lot of teams in front of you to lose as well. It's going to be tough for Florida State to make it if they lose, so we'll see what happens. But I got the Seminoles to cover the 4.5 in that matchup on Saturday night. That should be a fun one to round out week number 6. It's crazy to think, Johnson, we're at week 6 now of this college football season. I know I probably made that point last week, but it's still crazy to think that we're already at week 6.
Yep, and I really don't have much more to add, Nick, so you can take us home.
I got one more thing, Johnson. I forgot to mention this. What did I say last week about the Indiana-Iowa game? I was very proud of this.
I forget what you said exactly, but
I said I said Mendoza from Indiana was going to throw an interception because he had one all season. He threw an interception. I should have put that on my card. I should have done it. I should have done that as a player prop. Yep. I should have done it. You would have given me triple points. That would have been great. Oh, well, we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the slate this week. So let's round this one up, Johnson. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Week number 5 brought out a lot of crazy things in this college football world. Virginia knocks off number 8 Florida State. Big wins on the road for both Alabama and Oregon and their CFP hopes. Ole Miss gets another big SEC conference win over LSU. And now we head into week number 6. Some big matchups in the college football world, including Vanderbilt at Alabama and Miami at Florida State. Should be a great slate that we'll be recapping next week live here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. This has been Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside my co-host Andrew Johnson for the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.